It essentially takes those citations and will give me an aggregated view of content types, of subtypes, of information about the cited URLs that I can use to form my strategy for AEO. The disconnect between like top of funnel entrances and discovery has never been so disconnected from revenue, but there are some things that we can look at to bring us a bit closer and bridge that gap. So I'll put on screen the AEO measurement framework I'm looking at here. Just a quick one before we get into the episode, because I've got an offer that I'm sure all of you will be interested in. AEO is something that every B2B marketing team is trying to figure out right now, and most just don't know where to start. But at Blend, we're offering a full AEO analysis of your brand's AI visibility, and we'll walk you through exactly what we found and what to do about it. From full prompt analysis against your competitors to a citation analysis, where we'll look at different content types and how you're being cited for those and mentioned in those, and what you can actually do to be mentioned and cited much more for your brand, and what content you should create going forwards, and how you comprise that strategy really. We will drop a note in the description of this episode in the show notes, and you can go over there, request your free AEO audit, and we will deliver that to you. Before we get into the podcast today, here's a quick word from our sponsors, HubSpot. Most businesses think they know their customers. They have the data, the records, the history, but it's scattered across 3 teams and 4 systems, which means nobody can actually use it. HubSpot connects it all. Every interaction, every support ticket, every conversation into one platform every team can work from. So when sales talk to a customer, marketing already know the full story. And when you know more, you grow more. Check out HubSpot.com, the agentic customer platform for growing businesses. Hi everyone, welcome back to Demand Decoded. Dan here with you today, here for a solo episode actually. And in this episode, we're continuing the topic, we're continuing the conversation around AEO. Of course, we've done other episodes on AEO from strategy, an early one actually on measurement at the start of November last year, but things have moved on quite a lot since then. The way that we actually need to think about AEO has also moved on since then. And yeah, we've covered the kind of content side, some of the technical stuff as well. But really, I want to dig into measurement again, because it's where a lot of people are stuck right now. The thing is, clicks from search are down. Being totally transparent between us and our audience, our own website traffic is down, about 40% year on year. And this is the case across a lot of customers too. And, I'm sat there thinking, what on earth is going wrong? Having a mild panic attack about our SEO strategy being absolutely terrible and being, an awful marketer. But as we mentioned, it was in the last episode actually when we spoke about PPC, the changes in buyer behavior are having such an impact on clicks and click-through rates and traffic to websites that we have to figure out AEO as a channel. It's not a nice to have anymore. It's absolutely inevitable. And even if your business isn't as affected as that, because, we have to take into account here at Blend, we are marketing to marketers. Marketing are very quick to adopt any new ways to research and evaluate, whereas other businesses, will lag behind. So, we probably hit the brunt at the start compared to a lot of other businesses. But, it's what the data's showing. And a chunk of the research and discovery that used to happen on Google, especially when we think of, that top to mid funnel, even a lot of the bottom of the funnel now, to be honest, is now happening in AI. People are getting those answers without ever having to click through. So the traffic that we used to get on those, informational queries, even some of the commercial queries too, are just diminishing over time. And the trouble is, the metrics we would use to measure the effectiveness of our content strategy, of everything that we're doing in terms of bringing traffic to our website and converting that, more so on the bringing traffic, are really a lot less reliable than they used to be when we compare it to, say 3 years ago. And this has created this measurement problem, because if even if you've been investing in AEO or if you're thinking about it, you need to be able to answer the question of, is it working for us? And right now, most people either aren't measuring it or they've got a tool running, maybe they're looking at a dashboard without really knowing what to do with the data they're actually seeing. And that's what this episode is all about, really. We'll look at the tools. Of course, there are some great measurement tools out there now for AEO, but I think everyone knows that now. I don't think that's nothing new. And actually, so when we spoke about this in November, um, Phil and I were talking about the tools that are now available and discussing Scrunch, who's our AEO partner of choice, and talking about how great these tools are, where we can track prompts and things. But that is becoming widely adopted by people. But not everyone. We will get into that a little bit. But I think what I really want to kind of showcase are some measurement techniques we're using to actually go from are we appearing or not appearing to actually get into the analysis of what the data is telling you about your content strategy and how to read that and how to actually execute from that. And we'll walk through an additional framework that takes you from, okay, here's how to look at if we're appearing for prompts or not, to here's how we can actually track AI performance against revenue signals as well. It's not a clean attribution model, if you're thinking of skipping through to the end to hear that, sorry to burst the bubble. No attribution model is ever perfect, but this is as good as I think you can get right now when it comes to actually tying your efforts when it comes to AEO to pipeline and revenue performance. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're all about at Blend and on this podcast. We understand that marketing have a role to play in pipeline and revenue generation, a key role to play as well. And everything that we do needs to be tied to that. And we need to be comfortable having signals, even if they're not perfect, direct us in the right way to know if that's working or not. So yeah, that is what I want to unpack in the episode today. Before we get into the tools and tactics, it is worth being clear on why you can't just apply your existing measurement thinking to AEO, because if you do, you're going to either measure the wrong things or almost certainly come to the wrong conclusions from having the right data. Because with SEO, the good old days, the measurement model is pretty clean, right? You've got keywords with known search volumes, you've got rankings you can track week on week, and rankings are stable enough to be meaningful, and they are concentrated enough, keywords are concentrated enough to also be meaningful. So you can draw a fairly direct line from ranking improvements to traffic improvements to the pages that are ranking to lead improvements from the pages that are ranking and the conversion rates on those pages. AEO literally just has no infrastructure about in that particular way. There's no search volume for AI prompts yet, although super excited to start trying out ChatGPT ads because at last we will have some data. Don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now, especially because I'm on my own. There's nobody to draw me back in. But there isn't a public API available, even via ads, that will aggregate data on how often people are asking a particular question in ChatGPT. And actually, the chance that two people do ask the same question in the same way is very, very slim anyway, because the average prompt length is about 40 words and the variables in that are just too high. And also AI responses are probabilistic. The same prompt doesn't always generate the same answer, even for the same user. So you can't just track a position in the same way you would for a Google ranking. And there was a really great stat from an Hrefs report, which truly just shows the disconnect and how concrete it is, that only 12% of citations in AI assistants also rank in the top 10 in Google for the same query. So 88% of what is being cited in AI isn't even in Google's first page. So your Google rankings and your AI visibility are basically, highly unrelated. Measuring one thing doesn't necessarily tell you what's working about the other. So what this means in practice really is that AEO measurement is directional, not positional. That is the difference between AEO and SEO. You're not trying to track exact rankings. You're trying to track signals and trends over time. Are you appearing more over, the previous 3 months to the 3 months before that? Are the right pages you've been working on, you've been created, being cited? Are you showing up in the platforms your buyers actually use? That's the mental model to carry throughout everything else in this episode. And I would say, try to worry less about traffic. Traffic is a dying metric, I think, particularly from Google search. Traffic could still be interesting to look at from particular campaigns, particular efforts. I would worry less about it. I wouldn't totally scratch it off the dashboard right now, but it would be at the bottom of my list when I'm trying to create a relationship between what's happening at the top of the funnel and bringing in traffic and what's happening at the bottom of the funnel, because the two are just becoming more and more disconnected over time. Everyone says track your prompts, but very few people are talking about how to actually choose them, how to write your own prompts perhaps, or how to structure your prompt set so the data is actually useful to you. And if you've been listening for a while and you heard our episode on how to create an AEO strategy, let's link that actually in the description below, because that podcast, it was actually a live webinar. We visually ran through on a screen share how to do all of this and how to actually create a prompt set using a Claude project which synthesizes being your persona to give you an accurate representation of what they might ask AI engines. So I suppose the important thing to do is to decide firstly on who your ICP is and who your buyer personas are, because you need to have those defined, because we know that when buyers use AI for research and evaluation, they are adding a lot of context. There's 40 words on average in a prompt. That allows for a lot of room to be adding context about situations, about products, about the business, about needs and goals that keywords that are 3 or 4 words long simply don't contain. So firstly, having that structured ICP and persona documentation will make things a lot easier. You're then able to use this, as we showed in that episode, in particular ways to simulate being your personas in your ICP. So we have a Claude project set up that will essentially take ICP documentation and produce a list of prompt categories, a list of topics to cover, and a list of prompts to cover as well. And these prompts will cover anything from 10 words, what is the best X for Y, all the way to detailed commercial intent prompts that are very specific too. So for example, we are a B2B SaaS company who are looking to grow from 30 million to 80 million in the next 3 years. We have a budget of X. We're using these tools. Our team is currently suffering these issues. Recommend a partner that can help us solve the attribution challenge and help us with this and do that. Like, the amount of detail in there is varied. So it does matter to track both. The way I see it is we want to track in a few different ways, from the most basic prompt possible that somebody might ask about our business. Take us, for example, and our HubSpot partner lens, right? So Blender, a HubSpot partner, or you could say demand generation agency. Somebody might search on ChatGPT for who are the best demand generation agencies in the UK and the US. And we want Blend to come up for that. Somebody might also use the example that I just shared, adding a whole load of context about their business and their goals. We still want to show up. What I want to see in my AEO analysis is, does our content strategy need to vary based on those particular prompts? Can we still appear for those heavy contextual prompts, even for a piece of content that's written for the top level of that? If we think about this in terms of layers, we might have the top level prompt, which is, for us, best B2B demand generation agencies. That's at the top. From that, we might have an industry layer, we might have a use case layer, we might have goals, we might have situations, we might have regions. But even if you take into account those subsets, are they actually still drawing on the top level content, or do we then need to niche down and create content for all of those subtypes too? You don't know that unless you're tracking different variations of prompt length and prompt types to actually bring back different kinds of content that you might get from those variances. Okay, so sharing my screen now. So if you're listening to this on audio, I'll do my best to talk through it. But YouTube might be the place to just see what I'm talking through in more detail. Scrunch. So Scrunch, amazing AEO tool. We've been a customer now for maybe 6 months or so, 7 months, 8 months, something in that range. And really great for tracking lots of different brands and lots of different prompts in different large language models, etc. It's a scalable tool. The aggregation of data is really simple and easy to understand and extract insights from. So that's why we like it. It's not the only tool out there. I'm also going to show you HubSpot's own AEO tool after this, which we're also using, to be honest. We are, currently straddling between the two tools, and both are great. I like HubSpot's integration with the CRM in particular, of course. But I just want to cover Scrunch first, just to show you some things, what to look at when it comes to measuring AEO. So, of course, first thing to look at is the dashboard view against competitors. So how often are we being mentioned in our set of prompts against our competitors? By the way, here, I actually just set up a sample project for Rippling because I love Rippling's marketing, and I just thought, I wonder how they're actually doing against their competitors, and they're crushing it. So fair play to Rippling, and they are my go-to example now for AEO when we need to have somebody kind of anonymized that won't mind. So first thing to look at is how are we performing against competitors? What is our presence like? How is that improving over time from a broad perspective? And within those prompts as well, this is super important. Where are we being positioned in those prompts? Are we at the top of the result? Are we in the middle of the result? Are we at the bottom? This is super important, because if you have a 2,000 word reply from AI, maybe not that many, 500 word reply from AI, well, you might not get to the bottom of that list where your brand is being mentioned. But if you're at the top, it's like being in the top 1 to 3 positions of Google. You've got more chance of being seen and being noted down to get into the shortlist, whether they choose to navigate via AI or elsewhere. If you do have the availability to be tracking lots and lots of different prompts about your own brand, tracking sentiment is a really interesting thing to do, because it will help you understand how people are perceiving you in the market, particularly from a positive or negative perspective. How do they actually think about your brand? How is your brand being presented to people that you're actually unaware of? And there may be instances where you can reply to threads, create new content to actually help shape that position in the market slightly differently if you need to, or work on customer success and how you can help really excite customers. Citations, of course, is the next thing to be looking at. How often is your brand being cited in responses versus third parties? What's being cited, etc., etc. We're going to get into a real big section on citations. That is the meat of this episode, by the way. Your citation content analysis is just where the bread and butter is. That's going to form your strategy. But just a quick one on prompts. So after you've hopefully taken our advice of creating a Claude project, which is going to simulate all of your personas, or you just work with us on it and we'll do that for you. You'll have your topics of prompts to use, like in here. So in Rippling's example, we've got different topics for industries here, and also some company types like mid-market companies, finance spend management, professional services, IT management, technology and SaaS, mainly an industry split here. So what we want to do is have a good understanding of, are there particular topics where we are performing highly in compared to not so much. It may be that we do have an industry specialism in the business or in a particular product line where we're naturally performing better. We might have more content there. We might have more mentions in other places there, in news, in press, etc. Good to know how you're performing in different segments for your business. Then we can actually start to dig in here and dig into these individual prompts. And when it comes to AEO analysis, by the way, I do like to I know we have AI to analyze everything now, but sometimes actually you can't just beat going into an individual prompt and just understanding who's being cited, what this kind of response is, looking in, these different channels and these different AI models that we're tracking here, and understanding what the presence is for each one, if you're being tracked, if you're being cited, if you're not being cited, if you're being mentioned, etc., and why that's happening. And the why is a big part we'll get into, by the way. So yeah, understanding topics, understanding some individual prompts as well, and just getting a feel for things, like understanding why Bamboo HR are being cited so much more here than Rippling, but overall Rippling are higher. This is all interesting stuff to take away. So the next thing to look at from the topic level, though, is when I scroll down this list here, and we've got best HR software for healthcare companies as the prompt, and we've got one mention in ChatGPT over the last 10 days or so. Meta is none. Perplexity, we've got some consistency. Claude, none. AI overviews, yes, lots. Google AI mode, yes, lots. Gemini, good. Copilot, not so good. This requires evaluation because not all AI platforms and AI models are serving information in the same way or drawing from the same sources for that information. So what I just want to pull up quickly is HubSpot's State of AEO report, which, again, we'll link in the description below. It's absolutely worth a read. Fascinating stuff here in this study. And it shows which answer engines are citing different kinds of content. And what we can see here is vast differences between AI overviews, Gemini, ChatGPT, and Perplexity. And we have to take into account here, like, what the major large language databases are. ChatGPT having the majority market share, of course, and being used most widely, but Gemini not far behind, AI overviews disrupting the whole of Google search, Perplexity being used quite a lot too. So it's really important to understand the types of content that are being preferred and cited in these different platforms. So you can see here, like AI overviews, top citation content type is blog posts and informative articles. Same with Gemini, but there's a bit more consistency across the board with product listings, listicles, blog or non-blog being up there too. Comparisons not too bad in terms of blogs, and documentation and resources being up there. ChatGPT has some high numbers across the board, which is telling me that you could have quite a broad content strategy and work, perhaps in a lot of different industries. But the dominant content type is comparison blogs. So that could be comparison from one product to another, comparison between companies, also listicles being pretty high as well, as we know, user reviews being high, PR from like Reddit and things being quite high as well. So what's really important, and the analysis I would do next after the topics, is to actually do an analysis. And this is why I like Scrunch, for example, because I can export any of these topics that I like, and I can export this into an Excel sheet. I can then upload that into Claude, perhaps. I say perhaps, it would be Claude. I can create an artifact that I'm going to show you an artifact, by the way, in citations. But in this instance, I'd create an artifact that will actually show me the split between large language models and where I'm being cited most consistently in which models for which topic, for which, prompt type in terms of length and contextualization added, and, which large language model I'm performing best on and not best on. Even in Scrunch, we can do a little bit of that now. So I can say AI platform is ChatGPT. And it will show me just top level how I'm performing in ChatGPT against competitors, how my presence is, how my citations are, and also filter in the topics based on that. And look, let's have a quick flick over to Gemini. AI platform is Gemini. We can still see, Rippling are outperforming, but there is some variation. We're performing better on Gemini than we were in ChatGPT. I want to know why that is and what is causing that tip over to happen, and how we can create more of that in Gemini, but also close the gap a little bit in terms of the other large language models too. I just wanted to take a quick break in this episode to tell you about a podcast that's essential for understanding how AI is reshaping marketing. The Next Wave, hosted by Matt Wolf and Nathan Lands from the HubSpot Podcast Network. They consistently break down the latest AI developments and what they actually mean for the way that you do business. In one episode, they dive into whether 2026 is the year AI agents become truly indispensable, covering the explosions of new AI models, how they're getting smarter and cheaper, and why companies are racing to build integrated, emotionally aware agents. If you're not keeping up with how fast AI is moving, your business is already falling behind. The Next Wave, available wherever you get your podcasts. Right now, every B2B marketing team is trying to figure out AEO, where they stand, whether it matters for them, and what they're supposed to actually do about it. The best place to start is knowing where you stand. We're offering a full AEO analysis of your brand's visibility across AI search engines, how often you're mentioned, what you're being cited for, and how your competitors are showing up. Then we'll walk you through the findings on a call with clear next steps. And we're doing all of this for free. You can request your analysis in the show notes below. So understanding where you're currently at is really important, and the prompt area is going to show you that, of course. But understanding what to do about it and how you actually create the right content, get mentioned in the right places, get cited in large language models is really, really important. So that's why the citations area is just my go-to when it comes to AEO analysis and how to actually decipher what on earth do we do from here. So citations is basically where a link is being added in the response of the AI answer. Mentions are where just your brand name is mentioned, whether there is a link to you or not a link to you, it's just where you're being mentioned. Citations are where some website is being used as a source of information. That could be your website, anyone's website in here. So in Scrunch, I really like the split between citations here, how we can look at domains and also individual URLs. We can see here that Rippling are performing really great in terms of their domains. They are appearing as just as their domain. It could be, a number of URLs, but across 175 prompts in 3,014 responses. So, that would be tracked over a number of days, of course. And, they have a better influence score, which is just an aggregated data of those two, better than any other domain, which is awesome for them. Where I would be looking at to actually get the juicy information about how to change up my content strategy, how to create my AEO strategy, how to use this measurement for strategic purpose, is to look in the URL section here. And firstly, as I said before, I'd spend a bit of time just looking at these different blogs, these different pages, what kinds of content, like just from a curiosity perspective, is actually being cited here. What's interesting about these pages? What kind of content do they have on there? What structure is it? Can I actually just form something in my mind about some uniformity between these pieces of content or some interesting insights? So yeah, I'll do a quick scan of what's happening here, but there's too much data here, right, for one person to analyze over a period of time, and we have AI to help us now. So what I want to showcase here is how to basically take your citations area here and create an analysis to actually feed some insight. So in Scrunch and in many tools, you can export all of your citation analysis here. You can, have a summary or a detailed one view, one row per prompt. export that, and then you actually have a format you can work with in some different places. So I'm going to show you how we use this to create a Claude artifact that is going to aggregate this data in lots of interesting ways and point us and allow us to ultimately come up with strategic insights for recommendations going forwards. All right, so I'll do my best to talk through this for the audio listeners, but essentially what I was able to do is export all of our URL citations from Scrunch and create a Claude project. We've even added in, like our own branding, and made this actually look pretty good and presentable to anybody, to be honest. And this Claude project essentially takes our URL citations. I mean, the length of the instructions is extremely detailed in terms of what I want it to do, but it essentially takes those citations and will give me an aggregated view of content types, of subtypes, of information about the cited URLs that I can use to form my strategy for AEO. So it's taken citations and it's looked at which content types are being cited most often. This is really going to guide our content strategy for AEO. So we can see here for Rippling, in the example that I was looking at before, the top cited content type is blogs by country mile. 85% of citations is blog content. We then have homepage, we then have Wikipedia in there. We then have directory, research report, etc., etc. The others are small numbers. But yeah, by an absolute landslide, blogs and articles are by far the highest content type that are being cited. That tells me immediately, well, we need to create blogs and articles, or find if there are particular ones where we need to be mentioned. We then look at domains, not a huge amount of information to draw from that, just how we're performing, I suppose, compared to competitors and third parties. So top level view there. Where we get interesting is not only do we want to see what content types broadly are being cited, what types of blogs are actually being cited is going to be really interesting, because again, what we're trying to figure out here is what types of content do we need to create in order to inform our AEO strategy to perform better, to be cited for all of those prompts that we're tracking across the board, what is actually being cited most. And what we could do here, by the way, is even split this out by model, split this out by topic, and you could have an analysis per each of those to know, okay, here's perhaps the approach we need to take, which is slightly different for ChatGPT or slightly different for this topic. I think that's probably a little bit overkill for where we're at right now. I think the broad stroke analysis is good enough for most businesses, because there is some shared shared similarities between the models and the way that they cite content, but there are differences too. But I just think for now it would probably be overkill for most businesses. But anyway, back to the analysis. So I can see in my tab here, content subtypes, that we've now got blog and article subtypes. So out of the over 2,000 citations in this area, what types of blogs do we have? Well, best X and top X listicles make up for 63% of those citations in blogs. We've got comparison and versus articles, which make up 10%. Informational make up 6%, etc., etc. So, that must actually be overall out of all citations, actually, 63%. So, that shows us again that, wow, we really need to be creating the best X, top X listicle type content and seeing how we can be mentioned in others as well, if there are particular ones. Going back to the Scrunch report, where we've got our top URLs here, HR blog here, where we've got a listicle article, I'll be looking at this and thinking, wow, can we get referenced in that? Or can we actually create a better article? Can we create a structure out of all of these highly performing blogs in terms of citations and actually outperform them? And that's what I'd be looking to do here. We've also got Wikipedia, which was, what was that, third on the list or fourth on the list? Because it's interesting that this is being pulled through, and that's information that I want to know too, like the company profile, Personio, which is a HR SaaS platform. They have 28 citations for their Wikipedia page. Oracle's Cloud HCM product profile on Wikipedia has 17 citations. So this is telling me that actually we might just want to carve out a little piece of effort, a bit of resource to go ahead and create us a Wikipedia page too, seeing as that's being cited quite consistently. We've then got some Gartner reports here. I'm assuming these market reports, I'd probably want to dive into this one more layer to see what these reports are. But, this workforce management report is being cited here 16 times. Can we get mentioned in that? Can we create our own report that's going to be cited even more times, perhaps? So what we've got here then is just a summary of what are the blog and article subtypes that are performing best. Blogs and listicle type content, best X, top X are, clearly outperforming here. And that's where I would want to be approaching this to create content like that. Of course, then we can break down our top URLs here, slightly different to the way we do it in that Scrunch do it, because what I want to see in terms of top URLs, just from a glance, is what blog type, I spoiled the punchline there, what types are being cited most often, content types. We've got blogs and articles just popping up all over the place here. Wikipedia being quite high, as I mentioned before. But again, it clearly shows us the direction to take our content strategy in. What's really interesting is I was working with Phil on an AEO audit for a client last week, and theirs looked nothing like this. Blog content was, I think, the fourth highest cited piece of cited domain and cited content type. But actually, YouTube and Reddit were by far the two highest cited domains. That is super interesting to know. If we took broad stroke AEO advice when it came to analyzing and creating pieces of content, we would just create, listicle content that everybody does. Ripley are in a SaaS area. I'm not surprised that best X and top X listicles are being cited most often, but this was I can't say the industry even, but a very particular industry that doesn't conform to the normal kind of buying nature. And yeah, having YouTube and Reddit as the highest cited domains calls for a very different content strategy. So in our content subtype analysis here, we looked at, well, who are the top YouTube creators being cited? What types of videos are actually being cited as sources as well? Because it may be that we want to strike up some influencer partnerships for our brand to be mentioned within their videos, or we want to create our own videos in that kind of style that's being cited quite often. When it comes to Reddit, what's our community strategy? Do we have a community manager or somebody dedicated in that position that can go ahead and partake in conversations, not just pump our brand and, get us blacklisted on Reddit, but actually join the conversation, join the community, be part of what people are finding out and reading and exploring and researching. And again, we split that out by subreddit and how different people are engaging in there. And I mean, ultimately, that's going to drive a very different content strategy that we suggest compared to Rippling's, because the content that's being cited is just very different and requires a different approach. As I mentioned earlier, just wanted to quickly show you HubSpot's AEO tool, because I know as well a lot of people that listen to this podcast are HubSpot customers. So definitely go ahead and make use of their built-in AEO tool, because I know separate AEO tools can be expensive. It's just expensive to run the model actually and get all of the API requests. But as a HubSpot customer, you will have access to the AEO tool, even if it's a limited prompt number for now. But it's worth setting up just to actually get a feel for some things. And what you'll see in here is, again, a dashboard similar to Scrunch, where we can upload prompts, we can track our citations, and also get built-in recommendations too. And we can see here that we can see our brand visibility over time by platform. We can see how we're performing against competitors. You can see we're performing pretty high up here. The decent share of voice, and we can also see citation analysis as well. You can see actually what HubSpot are doing a bit more than Scrunch, to be honest, is actually analyzing the content types and the different citations, similar to what we are doing in our Claude artifact, not to the same extent and the same flexibility of that, but having a top level view of that is still useful. So we can see here, like in terms of citations, of course, HubSpot are going to dominate for the category we're going after here, but we're in second place with the most cited references, so pretty happy with that. And we can see, you know, by channel over time as well, and citations versus competitors over there. But yeah, I'll just show you prompts over here, so we can actually see our prompt with the prompt analysis itself, with the individual answers. We can split out in different engines, different products and services. Yeah, lots of flexibility to actually filter down here. I'm pretty sure you can tag as well, which is helpful. There's a lot of options for filtering, which is great. Our group, here we go. Yeah, so we can group prompts in whatever way we like. You can see, wow, we've absolutely skyrocketed for this prompt, which is awesome to see. That is actually a piece of content that we just created, migrating from WordPress to HubSpot. So clear that's working for us. Haven't actually looked at that from now, so that was a good one to show. I was kind of terrified it would be a really bad one, but that was a good example. And then, yeah, we get a citation overview, how we're performing and different channels against competitors, etc., etc. So, yeah, awesome to see here. Get a list of our own citations, which is great. So, yeah, HubSpot are doing a pretty good job of extracting the information for us and aggregating it in some views that are helpful. I would even say the recommendations are pretty good, actually. In terms of the content to create, we can see different listicles here, different product content types they're suggesting. Yeah, like in terms of what to create, I would say starting with this list will actually give people a lot of movement in their results. I still think it doesn't give you all the answers. Like if we were to run the same prompts that we did for the customer Phil and I were looking at, it wouldn't tell us to go and partner with an influencer for a YouTube channel because they're being cited lots. It's more like, here are some suggestions of content to create, which is still great, of course. So the last thing I want to talk about is how to actually measure AEO effectiveness, because the disconnect between like top of funnel entrances and discovery has never been so disconnected from revenue. But there are some things that we can look at to bring us a bit closer and bridge that gap. So I'll put on screen the AEO measurement framework I'm looking at here, and basically what I would suggest picking up and using in your reporting dashboards. So really, to take us all the way from like discovery to closed won value here are the metrics that we would look at. So the first bucket is looking at like AI coverage and impact on brand. So the first one is branded searches. We're not just looking at traffic volume here. We're actually not looking at traffic at all in this measurement framework. But branded search is something that we want to understand if more people are searching for our brand or not as a result of the content we're creating for AEO, because we know that click-through rates on AI search are extremely low. People are picking up the brand names and either leaving it there or using other tools, other methods like traditional search to go ahead and actually search for those brand names and navigate in their typical comfortable ways. So in theory, if you're performing extremely well in AEO and being mentioned lots as the solution to somebody's problem, more and more buyers are going to go to Google search and search for your brand. We want to know if that's improving or not. We've then got coverage of AI overview answers in Google search. We've got AI referral sessions. So This is actually segmenting your traffic data and looking at AI referral sessions. Again, I would not hyperfixate on this. It's a very interesting thing to look at, because if we're improving consistent consistent citations within prompts, we would expect some increase here. But the buyer behavior exhibited in AI search is still like anti-click. So whilst it's interesting to see, I wouldn't be fixating over it. But competitor presence, so this is our performance against competitors. Interesting to know. Top position percentage, again, interesting to know. Citations percentage, very useful for us to know if our content strategy is being picked up as a cited source. So this is kind of stuff that I was showing inside of Scrunch. Same as positive sentiment. We've then got AI MQL, AI SQL, etc. So how are we actually tracking this? Well, we are using, the classic self-reported attribution method here to track this. I still think there is no better way right now to actually attribute AI sourced leads than self-reported attribution. I've seen, multiple leads come through our own website that have found us through, organic search or direct traffic, that if we didn't have self-reported attribution set up, when they tell us they actually heard about us through ChatGPT or Perplexity, well, I would think, okay, they came through direct traffic. That's great. Doesn't actually tell me anything. Or they came through organic search, but that was them just searching for Blend B2B and then clicking on our website. I'd think, oh yeah, that worked great. But actually, in reality, it was AI search that led them to make that branded search, even if it appears as organic search in our software attribution. So yeah, we are still aggregating self-reported attribution and using that to drill down into AI MQLs, AI SQLs. We also want to look at the conversion rate between MQL and SQL from AI to actually see what's our performance there in terms of channel conversion rate. How does it compare to our other channels too? Deals from AI sources, of course. Deal value in pipeline from AI sources. And again, we want to be looking at, is the value from AI sources higher than other channels too? Closed won deals from AI sources and closed won deal values. Again, like we're going to be splitting that out by sources, seeing how AI as a channel is performing compared to other channels too. I mean, we found for ourselves actually that the deal size from AI search was actually 2.7x larger than from Google. That was throughout 2025. Need to do the same analysis probably for H1 this year. But I think it just shows that AI buyers arriving from AI are slightly further down the funnel and have done more of the research and evaluation and are just able to convert at a higher value with more confidence as well. So yeah, interesting to split that out for sure, and would recommend doing that. But yeah, that's the framework that we are starting to use and hopefully will be helpful for you as well. That level of reporting I would probably do at a monthly or quarterly level, but I would be looking at the prompt trends every week minimum. I mean, I'm in Scrunch and HubSpot AEO tools probably 3 or 4 times a week, especially if we're creating a lot of bulk content in that week. I want to know how much of an immediate impact it's having, which channels are being impacted. It depends how much you want to obsess over this channel or not, I suppose, or work with somebody who can obsess over it for you. But yeah, that's probably the cadence I'm on, and that we're on for some customers as well. Okay, just to round us off then, I think that's enough for this episode. I think the reason why AEO measurement is so hard right now is not because the tools aren't there, because they are, and they're really, really good and getting better every single day. It's because most people are waiting for that clean attribution model before they start measuring properly, and that model isn't coming anytime soon. And the teams are already using these tools to measure, just don't know what to do with the data. It's fine measuring, it's great having the data, but what you actually do with that data and how you inform your strategy is truly the important part that's going to drive more pipeline and revenue through this channel that's just becoming so important. So yeah, hopefully this episode was useful for you. I'd love to know any feedback you've got. check out the AEO audit, which is going to be advertised throughout this episode, and it's going to be our ad roll placement, I suppose. But it's genuinely a fantastic offer that many brands have already taken us up on and had some great value from it. It's a full AEO analysis where we're going to be taking a couple of hundred prompts synthesized from your information, giving you a full breakdown of competitor visibility, citation analysis, basically what I've just shown today, and recommendations for your brand moving forward. So yeah, please, hit us up on that. I'm sure I'll take some of those and can, enjoy your company on a half an hour call, sharing the insights with you and basically running through what to do with that information. But hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Demand Decoded. I did. It was good fun. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for listening to the episode today. Before you head off, if AEO has been on your mind and you're not sure where to start, here's something worth doing right now. We're offering a full AI visibility analysis completely free. We'll look at how your brand is showing up across the major AI engines, what's influencing those results, how competitors compare, and what you should do about it. Then we'll walk you through all the findings on a call. Actual findings too, specific to your business with real next steps. Not a template, not a PDF, a proper analysis. You can request yours by clicking the link in the description below.